"It's just scrap metal, Dad. Get over it." Those were my son's exact words when he demanded I sell my 1963 Corvette, the car my dying wife made me promise to keep forever, to bail out his in-laws. Mark called me a pathetic old man clinging to junk while real people suffered. What he didn't know was that his broke janitor father owned 50,000 Bitcoin worth over $2 billion. I'd been testing his character for years, living like a pauper while secretly being richer than he could imagine. When he stole my car and sold it behind my back, calling it worthless garbage, he sealed his fate. The payback I delivered was so perfectly cruel, it destroyed his life forever. Before I tell you how this broke janitor made his ungrateful son pay the ultimate price, let me know in the comments. Have you ever been looked down on because of your job or appearance? Hit that like button if you've ever had family members who were ashamed of you, because you'll want to see how this story of hidden wealth and perfect revenge unfolds. My name is Tom Wilson, and for 40 years, I've been cleaning toilets at Stanford University. Every morning, I'd catch the number 42 bus in my worn-out janitor uniform while wealthy students drove past in their expensive cars. My son Mark was ashamed of having a poor old man for a father. But what he didn't know was that his old man had a secret that would make him regret every cruel word he ever said to me. For 4 decades, I mopped floors, cleaned bathrooms, and emptied trash cans at one of the most prestigious universities in America. Students would walk past me like I was invisible. Professors would nod politely, but never really see me. I was part of the background, just another janitor in a blue uniform, keeping their world clean and comfortable. But appearances can be deceiving, and sometimes the people you look down on know things you could never imagine. Mark was 34 years old, a sales manager living in San Francisco with his wife Jessica. He had a decent job, a nice apartment, and a comfortable middle-class life. But whenever he talked about me, I could hear the shame in his voice, the embarrassment, the way he'd quickly change the subject when his friends asked about his family. "My dad's just a janitor," he'd say, like those words tasted bitter in his mouth. "He's never really amounted to much." It broke my heart every single time. I'd raised Mark by myself after his mother Mary died when he was 12. I worked double shifts to pay for his clothes, his school supplies, his college tuition. I never missed a parent-teacher conference or a baseball game, even when I was exhausted from cleaning up after people all day. I thought I'd taught him about dignity, about the value of honest work, about treating people with respect regardless of their bank account. I was wrong. Mark saw my job as something to be ashamed of. He saw me as a failure, a disappointment, an old man who'd never achieved anything worthwhile. When he introduced me to Jessica's family, I could see him cringing at my worn-out clothes and calloused hands. When they asked what I did for a living, he'd mumble something about maintenance work and quickly steer the conversation elsewhere. The disrespect hurt more than he could ever know. But I kept quiet, watching and waiting, hoping that somewhere deep down, Mark still had the values I'd tried to instill in him. I kept thinking that maybe the shame was just a phase, that eventually he'd realize there's honor in any honest work. I was about to discover just how wrong I was about my son. And when that discovery came, it would involve the one thing I treasured more than anything else in the world. Something that would reveal Mark's true character in the most painful way. That one thing I treasured was sitting in my garage, covered by an old tarp. A 1963 Chevrolet Corvette split window, painted in rally red with chrome that still gleamed despite its age. To most people, it looked like just another classic car. To Mark, it was worthless junk. But to me, it was everything. It was Mary. I met my wife Mary in 1978 at a car show in San Jose. She was 22, wearing a yellow sundress, absolutely mesmerized by that exact Corvette. The owner wanted $12,000, which might as well have been $12 million for a young mechanic like me. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she said, running her hand along the hood. "Someday I'm going to own a car just like this." "Someday I'm going to buy you one," I replied, and she laughed like it was the sweetest impossible dream. Every spare dollar went into a coffee can in our kitchen cabinet. Mary would joke about our Corvette fund whenever we ate beans and rice for dinner. She never complained, never made me feel guilty for chasing what seemed impossible. In 1985, 7 years later, I surprised Mary on her birthday by driving that same Corvette into our driveway with a giant red bow on the hood. She cried so hard she couldn't speak for 10 minutes. "You remembered," she whispered. "You actually remembered." We spent 15 years making memories in that car. Sunday drives through California hills, weekend trips to Monterey, teaching young Mark how to change oil and check tire pressure. Mary would sit in the passenger seat, windows down, hair flying in the wind, laughing and singing along to the radio. Those were the happiest years of my life. When cancer came, Mary fought with everything she had. On her final day in the hospital, she grabbed my hand with what little strength remained. "Promise me something, Tom," she whispered. "Promise me you'll keep our car. Don't ever let anyone take it away. When you drive it, I'll be right there beside you." I promised her, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. For 8 years since Mary died, that Corvette had been my connection to her. Every Sunday, I'd take it for a drive, feeling her presence in the passenger seat. I'd tell her about my week, about Mark's achievements, about how much I missed her. Mark never understood any of this. To him, it was just an old car I was too stubborn to sell. He was about to prove just how little he understood about love, loyalty, and keeping promises to the people who matter most. The call that would change everything came on a Tuesday evening in March. I was watching the news when my phone rang, and Mark's voice sounded strained, worried in a way I hadn't heard since Mary got sick. "Dad, I need to tell you something," he said. "Jessica's parents are in serious trouble." Jessica's father, Miguel Rodriguez, had owned a small construction company in the East Bay for 20 years. He was a good man, hard-working, the kind of guy who built his business on handshake deals and treating his workers fairly. But the past 2 years had been brutal for small contractors. Supply chain issues, labor shortages, and 3 major clients who'd gone bankrupt without paying their bills. "They're facing complete financial ruin," Mark explained, his voice heavy with worry. "The bank is foreclosing on their house next month. Miguel's business creditors are circling like vultures. They need $75,000 immediately, or they're going to lose everything." I could hear Jessica crying in the background. Despite Mark's attitude toward me, I'd always liked Jessica. She was a sweet girl who genuinely cared about her family. Her parents had immigrated from Mexico 30 years ago with nothing but hope and determination. They'd built a decent life through sheer hard work, and now it was all crashing down around them. "That's terrible," I said, meaning it. "Is there anything I can do to help?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could practically hear the wheels turning in Mark's head. "Well," he said slowly, "Jessica and I have been talking. We've been looking at every possible option. We've applied for loans, but our credit isn't good enough for that kind of money. We've asked other family members, but nobody has that much cash available." Another pause. Longer this time. "Dad, I know this might sound crazy, but what about your car?" My heart skipped a beat. "What about it? That old Corvette you keep in the garage? I mean, it's just sitting there collecting dust. Classic cars are worth good money these days, right? Maybe if you sold it, we could help Jessica's family save their house." The casual way he said it, like he was suggesting I sell an old lawnmower, made my chest tighten. "Mark, that car means everything to me. You know that. It was your mother's favorite thing in the world. Dad, come on, Mom's been gone for 8 years. It's just a car. Jessica's parents are about to lose their home, their business, everything they've worked for their entire lives. Surely helping real people is more important than hanging on to some old vehicle." I felt like he'd slapped me. "Some old vehicle? Mark, that's not just a car. That's my connection to your mother. That's my promise to her." "Your promise to a dead woman," he said, his voice getting harder, "or helping a living family who desperately needs our support. Which one matters more, Dad?" The cruelty in his tone shocked me. This was my son, the boy I'd raised to understand the value of keeping your word, of honoring the people you love. "I need to think about this," I said quietly. "Think fast," Mark replied. "The foreclosure notice gives them 30 days. After that, it's too late." He hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in my living room for a long time that night, staring at nothing. I understood that Jessica's parents were in genuine crisis. I felt terrible for them, truly I did. But the way Mark had dismissed my feelings, the way he'd called Mary's memory meaningless, cut deeper than any physical pain I'd ever experienced. What I didn't know was that this conversation had planted a seed in Mark's mind. A terrible, selfish seed that was already beginning to grow into something that would destroy our relationship forever. 3 days later, Mark showed up at my house unannounced. I was in the garage polishing the Corvette's chrome when I heard his car door slam. The sound was angry, and I knew this wasn't going to be pleasant. "We need to talk," he said, storming into the garage without saying hello. His face was red, jaw clenched, with something cold in his eyes I'd never seen before. "Hello to you too, son," I said calmly, setting down my cloth. "Cut the crap, Dad. Jessica's parents have 4 weeks before they lose everything, and you're out here playing with your toy car like their suffering doesn't matter." The venom in his voice made me step back. "Mark, I told you I'd think about it." "Think about what? You're a 68-year-old janitor living in a dump, hoarding a car worth more than you'll make in 5 years. It's selfish and pathetic." "That car is not for sale. I made a promise to your mother." "Your mother is dead," he shouted. "She's been dead for 8 years. She doesn't care about this stupid car because she doesn't care about anything anymore. You're choosing a hunk of metal over living people who need help." I felt tears stinging my eyes. "How can you talk about your mother like that?" "Because I live in reality, unlike you. You're a pathetic old man clinging to the past while real people suffer. Jessica cries herself to sleep every night, but you don't care. You care more about your precious memories than actual human beings. That's not fair. You know I care about Jessica's family. Then prove it. Sell the damn car." "I can't break my promise to your mother." Mark's face twisted with disgust. "You know what your problem is? You've always been a loser. A nobody who cleans toilets and thinks he's too good to help family. You're selfish, stubborn, and frankly an embarrassment." Each word hit like a physical blow. This was my son calling me an embarrassment. "You raised me to be better than you," he continued with contempt. "Thank God for that, because looking at you now in this pathetic garage with your pathetic car, living your pathetic life, I can't believe I came from you. Mark, please." "No, I'm done asking nicely. You're going to sell that car and give us the money. Because if you choose a dead woman's memory over helping living people, then you're not the man I thought you were. You're just a selfish old fool who doesn't deserve to call himself family." He stepped closer, his face inches from mine. "And if you refuse, don't expect to see me or Jessica ever again. We'll be done. You can sit here with your precious car and die alone like the worthless old man you are." The garage fell silent except for my ragged breathing. Mark stood there waiting, his eyes cold and merciless. "You have 24 hours to decide," he said finally. "Sell the car or lose your son forever." He walked out, leaving me standing in the silence. My heart shattered into pieces. What Mark didn't know was that his cruel words had just sealed his fate in ways he could never imagine. I spent that night lying awake, staring at the ceiling, Mark's cruel words echoing in my head. Worthless old man. Embarrassment. Die alone. 24 hours to choose between my promise to marry and my relationship with my son. The next morning, my old friend Robert called from Sacramento. His wife had passed away suddenly, and he needed someone at the funeral. Robert had been there for me when Mary died, so I couldn't say no. I'd be gone for 3 days. Before leaving, I walked into the garage one more time. The Corvette sat there under its cover, beautiful and pristine, holding 8 years of Sunday conversations with Mary's memory. I ran my hand along the hood and whispered, "I won't break my promise to you, sweetheart, no matter what it costs me." I locked the garage and left for Sacramento, hoping that 3 days would give Mark time to cool down and remember the values I'd tried to teach him. I was wrong. I returned home on Friday evening, exhausted from the long drive and the emotional weight of another funeral. As I pulled into my driveway, something felt different. Wrong. The garage door was slightly ajar, which was strange because I always kept it locked. My hands shook as I lifted the door. The garage was empty. Not just empty of the car, but empty of everything. The tools I'd used to maintain it, the spare parts I'd collected over the years, even the old photographs of Mary and me with the Corvette that I'd kept on the workbench. All gone. I stood there in the hollow space, feeling like someone had ripped my heart out of my chest. Then I saw it, sitting on the concrete floor where my beautiful car used to be. A crumpled piece of paper. It was a bill of sale. Mark had sold my Corvette to some collector in Nevada for $45,000. $45,000. The car was worth at least $70,000, maybe more. He'd practically given it away. My phone was ringing before I even realized I'd pulled it out of my pocket. "Hello, Dad." Mark's voice was casual, almost cheerful. "How was the funeral?" "Where's my car?" I whispered. "Gone. Sold. The money's already been wired to Jessica's parents. Crisis averted, family saved. You should be proud. You had no right. That wasn't your car to sell. Actually, I had every right. You see, I still had the spare key from when I was a teenager. And since you were too selfish to do the right thing, I did it for you. Mark, that car was everything to me. It was my connection to your mother. It was scrap metal, Dad. Expensive scrap metal, but scrap metal nonetheless. Get over it. Jessica's parents aren't going to lose their house now. That's what matters. Real people with real problems, not some sentimental attachment to a dead woman's favorite toy. The casual cruelty in his voice was breathtaking. How can you talk about your mother like that? Because I'm a realist. And because, frankly, I'm tired of pretending your feelings matter more than everyone else's. You're a janitor, Dad. A nobody. You clean toilets for a living. That car was the only valuable thing you'll ever own. And now it's actually doing some good in the world instead of just sitting in your pathetic garage. I was crying now, standing in my empty garage, listening to my son destroy what was left of my heart. I'll never forgive you for this, I said quietly. Mark laughed. You'll get over it, old man. You always do. He hung up. But what Mark didn't know was that he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. That night, I sat in my kitchen staring at my laptop screen, my heart broken but my mind crystal clear. Mark thought he knew everything about his broke janitor father. He thought I was powerless, helpless, a pathetic old man with no options. He was about to learn his first lesson. I opened my secure Bitcoin wallet and stared at numbers that had been growing for 15 years. 50,000 coins, purchased when they were worth pennies, now valued at over $2 billion. More money than Mark could comprehend, hidden while he spent years being ashamed of his poor father. But first, Jessica's parents were innocent victims. They were good people facing genuine hardship, and they didn't deserve to suffer because of their son-in-law's cruelty. I initiated an anonymous wire transfer for $75,000 to Miguel Rodriguez's bank account. Not the $73,000 Mark had stolen, but the full amount they needed. The transfer came from an untraceable offshore account, with a simple note, from a friend who believes in second chances. The next morning, Jessica called Mark, sobbing with joy. I could hear her excitement when Mark called to tell me the good news. "Dad, you're not going to believe this," Mark said, amazed. Some anonymous donor just paid off all of Jessica's parents' debts, $75,000. They're completely safe now. That's wonderful, I said calmly. They must have a guardian angel. It's incredible. Jessica's crying happy tears. Her parents are calling it a miracle. They have no idea who could have done something so generous. I could hear the satisfaction in Mark's voice. He thought his theft had somehow contributed to this miracle. He had no idea his broke janitor father had just casually donated more money than Mark would make in 3 years. I'm so relieved, Mark continued. I mean, selling your car helped. But this anonymous donation means Jessica's family is completely secure. They can rebuild everything. I'm happy for them. They deserve good things. Maybe this worked out for the best. Your car money helped, and now this mystery donor finished the job. Sometimes things happen for a reason, right? The casual way he dismissed stealing my most precious possession made my blood boil, but I kept my voice steady. Yes, Mark. Sometimes things do happen for a reason. I'm proud of you for doing the right thing, even if it was hard. Mom would be proud too. That comment nearly broke my composure. Mark had stolen my connection to Mary, called her memory worthless, and now claimed she'd be proud of his theft. I'm sure she's watching all of this very carefully, I said quietly. Well, I should go. Jessica wants to celebrate tonight. Thanks for understanding, Dad. After he hung up, I sat in my empty garage for a long time. The oil stain where my Corvette had lived was still visible. Mark thought he'd won. He thought he'd successfully manipulated his weak old father, and now some mysterious benefactor had made everything perfect. He had no idea that his broke janitor father was the mysterious benefactor, and he had no idea that this act of anonymous generosity was actually the beginning of his punishment, not the end. Because now that Jessica's parents were safe, I could focus entirely on teaching Mark the most expensive lesson of his life. The real payback was just beginning. 2 days later, I called Mark. It was time for him to learn the truth about his pathetic old man. Hey, Dad, he answered, still riding high from his victory. What's up? I need you to come over. There's something I want to show you. Can't it wait? Jessica and I are celebrating tonight. No, Mark, it can't wait. Come now. Something in my tone got through because he agreed immediately. When Mark arrived, I was sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop open. He walked in looking annoyed. "What's so important?" he asked, settling across from me. "I want to show you something about your broke janitor father," I said, turning the screen toward him. Mark glanced at it, then did a double take. His eyes widened as he processed what he was seeing. Numbers. More numbers than he'd ever seen in one place. "What is this?" he whispered. "That's my Bitcoin wallet, son. 50,000 coins I bought starting in 2009, when they cost less than $1 each." Mark's face went white. "That says $2.1 billion. Correct. Your pathetic, worthless janitor father is worth over $2 billion. The silence was deafening. Mark stared at the screen, mouth opening and closing. "This can't be real," he managed. I clicked to another screen showing recent transactions. "See that transfer 3 days ago? 75,000 to Miguel Rodriguez? That anonymous donation that saved Jessica's parents? That was me." Mark's hands started shaking. "You're the mystery donor? I've been watching you your entire adult life, Mark. Watching you be ashamed of me because you thought I was poor. I kept living like a janitor to test your character. I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I had nothing. Dad, for 15 years I could have lived like the billionaire I am. But I wanted to test if you'd love and respect your father regardless of his bank account." Mark was crying now, understanding his betrayal's magnitude. "You failed spectacularly. You called me pathetic, worthless, an embarrassment. You stole the one thing connecting me to your mother and sold it like garbage. You committed fraud because you thought I was too powerless to stop you. Dad, please, I'm sorry. I didn't know. You didn't know because you never bothered to know me. You saw a janitor's uniform and decided that was all I was worth. You judged your father by appearance instead of character." Mark was sobbing. "I can make this right. I'll find your car, buy it back." "With what money?" "You make $60,000 a year. That car costs more than you'll earn in a lifetime. Use your money. You can buy 100 Corvettes." I closed the laptop and looked at him with cold eyes. "That's not the point. You stole something irreplaceable from someone you claimed to love because you thought he was too weak to fight back. I'll do anything to make this right. Anything." "There's nothing you can do, Mark. The damage isn't to my car or bank account. It's to my heart. You showed me exactly what kind of man you are." Mark reached across desperately. "Please, Dad, give me a chance." I stood and walked toward the door. "I already gave Jessica's parents $75,000. That's my final act of generosity toward your family." "What does that mean?" I turned back one last time. "It means you're about to learn what it really feels like to be powerless." Over the next week, Mark called me 17 times. He showed up at my house twice. He sent desperate text messages at all hours. "Dad, please answer your phone. I know I messed up. Let me fix this. I'm begging you, don't do this to me." On the 8th day, I finally answered. "Thank God," Mark sobbed. "Dad, I've been going crazy. I can't eat, can't sleep. Jessica doesn't understand why I'm falling apart." "What do you want, Mark?" "I want to make this right. I'll spend my life making it up to you. I'll quit my job and take care of you. Just please give me another chance." Number. "Dad, you can't mean that. I'm your son, your only child. Mom wouldn't want you to abandon me." The mention of Mary made my jaw clench. "Don't bring your mother into this. You dishonored her memory when you sold that car." "I'll get it back. I've been calling dealers all week. I'll find whoever bought it and pay whatever they want, even if it takes 20 years. You still don't understand." Mark was crying hard. "Then, explain it. Tell me what to do. I'll do anything." "There's nothing you can do. You revealed your true character, Mark. When you thought I was powerless, you showed me exactly who you are. Cruel, selfish, with no respect for people who love you. But I do love you. I was stressed about Jessica's parents. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting my birthday. What you did was calculated cruelty. You forged my signature, lied to the buyer, called me pathetic and worthless. That wasn't a mistake. That was who you really are." "People change. I can change. Give me a chance to prove it." "Why should I? For 34 years I gave you everything. I worked double shifts for your education. I sacrificed my comfort for your opportunities. The moment you thought I couldn't give you more, you treated me like garbage." Mark was hyperventilating. "I'm sorry. So sorry. I'll go to therapy, do community service, donate to charity. Whatever you want. I don't want anything from you. That's the point. I'm worth $2 billion. There's nothing you can offer that I can't get myself. Then what about forgiveness? Mercy? Being the bigger person? I was quiet for a moment. You want to know about being the bigger person? I anonymously paid your in-laws' debts even after you stole from me. I made sure Jessica's family was safe despite your betrayal. That was me being the bigger person. So you can forgive them but not me? They didn't steal from me, Mark. They didn't call me worthless or spit on everything I held sacred. You did. Mark's voice became small, broken. So that's it? You're cutting me out forever? Your only son? You cut yourself out when you chose greed over love. When you decided your poor old father wasn't worth basic respect. Dad, please. Goodbye, Mark. I hung up and blocked his number. Then I sat in my quiet kitchen, looking at the empty chair where my son used to sit, feeling both heartbroken and strangely at peace. Mark had made his choice when he thought I was powerless. Now he would live with those consequences forever. The next morning, I drove to Stanford University for the last time as an employee. After 40 years of cleaning those halls, it felt strange knowing I'd never return. But I had one final piece of business. I met with the university president, Dr. Sarah Chen, in her office overlooking the campus where I'd spent most of my adult life. Mr. Wilson, she said, puzzled, I understand you're retiring. We'll miss you on our maintenance team. Thank you, Dr. Chen. But I'm here to make a donation. I slid the paperwork across her desk. Her eyes widened as she read the numbers. This says, $1.8 billion. Correct. I'm donating my Bitcoin fortune to Stanford University. I want it to fund scholarships for students from working-class families. Kids whose parents clean buildings, drive trucks, work in factories. Dr. Chen stared at the documents, speechless. Mr. Wilson, I had no idea you had this wealth. This is the largest single donation in Stanford's history. I've been saving it for the right moment. That moment is now. Is there anything else you'd like the donation to fund? A building with your name? No buildings, no plaques, no recognition. Just scholarships for kids who need them. And maybe fix the heating in the maintenance building. The workers deserve better. After signing the papers, I drove to the Greyhound station downtown. I purchased a monthly bus pass and a job application for their custodial staff. Then I mailed both items to Mark's apartment with a simple note. Since you always saw me as just a janitor, I thought you might want to try it yourself. This is your inheritance. The bus pass will get you to work, and the job application will help you understand what real work feels like. Consider it a gift from your pathetic old man. I kept exactly $200 million for myself, more than enough to live comfortably, but a fraction of what I'd given away. The rest went to Stanford, ensuring thousands of working-class students would get opportunities they'd never have otherwise. That evening, I sat in my small house, looking through old photo albums. Pictures of Mary and me with the Corvette. Pictures of young Mark learning to change oil in my garage. Pictures of family barbecues when we were happy, before money and status became more important than love and respect. My phone rang once, Mark calling from a different number, but I let it go to voicemail. I never listened to the message. 3 months later, I heard through Jessica's cousin that Mark had taken the janitor job. He'd been fired from his sales position when he couldn't focus on work, spending all his time trying to reach me. Jessica had moved back with her parents, unable to understand why her husband had become obsessed with finding his father. I felt no satisfaction in his suffering, but no regret either. Mark had made his choice when he thought I was powerless. Now he was learning what powerlessness actually felt like. I bought a small cottage in Carmel by the sea, and spent my days reading, gardening, and taking long walks on the beach. Sometimes I thought about getting another classic car, but it wouldn't be the same. That Corvette hadn't just been about the car. It had been about the love Mary and I shared, the promise I'd made, the connection to happier times. Mark had stolen more than just a car. He'd stolen the last piece of my heart that still believed in unconditional family love. The payback was perfect because it was permanent. Mark would spend the rest of his life knowing exactly what he'd lost, and exactly why he'd lost it. And me? I finally found peace, knowing that sometimes walking away is the only way to protect what's left of your heart. This family story teaches us that respect isn't earned by wealth, but by character. Tom's journey shows us that God sees our hearts, not our bank accounts, and often tests us through those closest to us. When we judge others by appearance, we risk losing our most precious relationships. Mark's tragedy wasn't poverty. It was allowing shame to poison his heart against the man who sacrificed everything for him. God blessed Tom with wealth, but his true treasure was his capacity for love. Even in pain, he helped Jessica's parents, showing that divine grace comes through unexpected channels. Like many grandpa stories passed down through generations, this tale reminds us that people we dismiss as ordinary may carry extraordinary secrets. Tom's story echoes countless grandpa stories where quiet dignity ultimately triumphs over cruelty. The empty garage where Mary's Corvette once sat represents every broken promise in family relationships. Yet Tom chose justice over revenge, proving that God's justice, though delayed, is always perfect. If this family story touched your heart, share your thoughts below. Have you ever misjudged someone based on their job or appearance? Your story might encourage others walking similar paths. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us God works through ordinary people in extraordinary ways.